you back to Real Talk with J&J. And first and foremost, I want to just say thank you for watching and listening.
Yeah, guys, we're so excited that you've joined us in this journey. It's been awesome so far. We've loved studying these topics and preparing these. And so we hope you guys enjoy watching them as well. And today we have a new topic for you guys on Real Talk with J&J. What are we talking about today?
Today is a big one. We are talking about character.
It's character. Now, just before we go any further here, I think I can think of a time in my life where I didn't always prioritize or have great character. So we have a definition here, and it says it's the mental and moral qualities specific to an individual. This is basically from an external point of view. When people look at you, these are the mental and moral qualities that they would attribute to your individual, your person.
So another way that we can think about it is your mentality, your personality, the way you are certain, like with certain different situations. Over time, the consistent behavior you have in your everyday life will define your character, if it's in a good or a bad way.
Yeah. So kind of now that we know what character is, I think, end of high school, beginning of college, a lot of times I was not focused on what my actions said about me to others. I was like, I'm going to do whatever I want. I'm going to say whatever I want. I'm going to go wherever I want. And really, who cares about the consequences? Who cares about the legacy or character that I leave behind? And
I was just thinking that, like, it was more of like, you didn't even think there was consequences for those actions.
and it's not even just like, oh, a certain subset of people might not like you or something like that. It's like, it's actual relationships that you might ruin. It's actual opportunities that you might forego because you're focused or you're not preparing yourself, right? When a door is open and you're not prepared, if you walk through it, you're going to look like a fool. So how do you get prepared for it? It starts by building that character. And if you're not focused on that, even whether you're in high school, whether you're in college, like the character that you're building is going to matter for the different doors that you can walk through and that work that you have to do on yourself. And I believe that God has to help us a lot of times because it's really hard to just develop character out of nowhere. But today we want to go through and we want to share some points about how you can develop character. And it's going to be three things. First, we're going to talk about why character matters in the first place.
And then how do we develop character?
And then finally, how do we maintain character after we started to develop these different good habits? So let's jump right in with why does character matter? I don't think this is an official definition. This is just the Josh and Jasmine definition. But I think character is the barometer by which other people can measure your actions. They can measure yourself, your personhood. Are you someone of your word? Do you show up when you say you're going to show up? Are you loyal? Are you someone that likes to gossip? These are things that people can notice about you. Are you good in handling conflict? Are you easily angered? Are you easily offended? And these are character traits that we need to become aware of ourselves, and we need to understand that these character traits are things that other people can see. Some things aren't always things everyone will see, but people will kind of begin to measure you by, oh, I know this person's always going to be late. Yeah. Hey, I know this person's not always going to be on good terms with people. They're always going to have beef with somebody. And that can be kind of what people know you by, and that impacts how people interact with you. And when people interact with you with a preconceived notion based on the character traits that you have shown, that can hinder a lot of opportunities, that can hinder a lot of personal relationships, and that kind of also says something about you. Where are the areas in your life that you aren't addressing that are becoming character flaws that other people are noticing?
Yeah, and some things to add to that too is like you're saying, why does character matter? But like, one, you can ask yourself this question, like, what do you want to achieve in your life? Or what do you want to be known by? And you can look at yourself right there of like, okay, this is what I want to be in the future. This is what I want to be known by. And you take track, like we said, we can take track of a record of like, this is how we act right now. This is what we do in certain situations. Is the way we act, is the character that we have right now, is it going to let us align to where we want to be in the future?
That's so good. That's so good. Like so many times people are like, hey, I want to do X, Y, and Z, but I'm not willing to do A, B, and C. And if you aren't able to learn now, to develop character now, to be consistent with the things you're supposed to be doing, whether it's school, whether it's working out, whether it's eating right, whether it's learning about the business that you want to, or the field that you want to go into, whether it's learning about how to communicate, if you're not consistent about developing character now, when you eventually get to the opportunity, you're not going to be ready when the opportunity presents itself.
And it's the same thing. If you have negative characteristics or negative attributes that are in your life, it's going to attract negative people in your life. It's going to attract negative characteristics that are going on.
Negative results.
Negative results. And you have to break that. Like, you can't give an excuse of like, oh, that's the way my family was, or that's just how I was brought up. But you expect to be successful. Like, no, you have to stop that right now and confront it and be like, okay, this is the way I was, but hey, I'm moving forward. I'm looking past this, and this is what I'm going to do now.
Yeah. And I think you can't have a positive outcome. You can't achieve all your goals if you have negative inputs, if you have mediocrity throughout your life.
Yeah.
It's so important that we prioritize our character over a job title, over the vision that we see, because the character is what helps sustain us when we get there. The character is the legacy that we are leaving that, okay, I might make a lot of money, but if that's my only goal and I don't use money for the right things, if I don't take time to develop character, I might use my money on things that don't matter or things that hurt other people. Whereas if I develop character to know I'm going to help people, I'm going to be someone that is always giving, someone that's not stingy, someone that is always looking to help, that's the character that I build, and that's the legacy that people are going to remember you by.
Yeah. And like when you were saying, like when we have true character, we are going to respect people. We're going to honor people regardless to the benefit. Like, let's say we're only nice to these people because we know that they're going to reward us, or they have something special for us. Like, no, that's not true character. We're seeking something with a reward.
Well, it is character. It's just not a good characteristic trait. It's we're seeking self-gain and stuff like that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And regardless of if they're going to do anything nice for us at the end, like, no, we should want to help them out, or we should want to bless them just because that's who we are. We don't need anything in return for that to happen.
And I think character is this, it's knowing what the right thing is and doing it. And a lot of times we have to define our values, but once we define our values, we now have a parameter in which we can operate and say, you know what? I know based on my values that this is the right thing to do, and I'm going to do that regardless of if it feels good, regardless of if I feel like I want to do it. I'm going to do this because I know this is right. And character, I would say it's honestly even more important that what are you doing when people aren't watching? If you only do the right thing when people are watching, that's also a character flaw, and that we have to kind of address. Like, am I only doing the right thing because I want to please others? Is my end game to manipulate others into helping me out by doing the right thing? Or am I someone that's going to do the right thing regardless of the situation? Because there are going to be multiple situations in your life where it's much easier to do the wrong thing, where it's much easier to cut corners, where it's much easier to take the path of least resistance. But the right thing to do is to not cut corners. It's to go through it and face the tiger and be like, you know what? I'm going to take on this problem that's in front of me, and it's not going to feel good all the time, but I have developed character that's not going to let me take the easy way out.
Yeah. And we want to go, and like, we always put our faith in this and we always say how important it is. But in the Bible, in Matthew 6:4, it says that he tells us that we will be rewarded in what we do in secret. And
God looks at what we're doing in secret, and he sees everything. People don't see everything, but he does. And if we don't have that character to do in secret, eventually, I think more times than not, it does catch up to you in public.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. Like, you can be one way in private and another way in public. But like you said, when the rubber meets the road, if something happens in a split moment, what character is going to come out? Is it something that you've been practicing when no one's been watching? Or is it something that, like you said, you've been putting up a front? Like, that front eventually falls down.
Like, if you're just focused on building reputation and not building character, your reputation can be destroyed so easily. But a lot of people only focus on building their reputation, i.e. they're only doing the right thing when it's the right time in front of the right people, instead of instead of developing the character that it takes to do the right thing all the time, to be consistent in that, in all different variations of life that they're going to face. And that is really what we want to talk about today. How do we get to that point where we can develop character that's going to help us and it's going to sustain us in achieving the goals that we have for our life?
And now we want to go on to the next point, or how do we develop character? Character is not developed overnight. It's something that takes time. It's something that's going to be a lifelong thing that we're going to be doing. It's going to stretch you.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's every moment in life that you are going to need change. You are going to need a new development of character. Like, you shouldn't want to stay the same of each path that you are on, or each season that you are on in your life. Like when I was in high school, I would say like my character was so flawed, but I was just so lost, so broken. But once I found purpose and once I found what I needed to be doing, it was just so much easier for me to achieve the character that I wanted to be, the person who I am now. But like I'm saying, the person that I am, who I am today, is not the same person I want to be in 10 years. I want to develop more characteristics. I want to develop more wisdom, more knowledge to share. Like, I don't want to stay content of where I'm at right now.
And how do we do that? There's the phrase, I'm sure you've heard it before, I think, therefore I am. It starts with changing how you think. It starts with establishing the values that are important to you and changing the way you think about the world or your situation. A lot of times, and for me, I'll give you an example. When I was younger, I wanted to be a successful businessman. I wanted just to be rich. That's really what I cared about. And I was like, everything I'm going to do is going to help me be rich. I have to do these certain things in order to get there. Who cares who I hurt? Who cares what I do? As long as I get to my goal, that's what matters. And I really, at some point in my life, I had to check myself and say, is that what really matters? Is the thought process that I am portraying right now actually beneficial to myself? Is it actually beneficial to others? Is it actually the right thing that needs to be done based on my worldview or based on my perspective of the world? And the answer is no. And so that was something that I had to kind of say, you know what is the right answer then? How should I see this? Why is the reason, or what is the reason that I should have money, or what should I do when I get money? And that started just by saying, okay, what am I consuming that's making me think that? What am I listening to that makes me think just getting money is only thing that matters? Who am I around? What environments, what circles am I in? And do those things help push me towards where I need to go? Or are they keeping me in the mindset of or the wrong mindset that I was in?
So I think it's important that we have the ability to take control of our thoughts, to dissect of like, to think where do we want to go? What do we want to be? And dissect that and allow ourselves to really see if our character is lining up with where we want to be.
So I think what we want to understand is that we have the ability to take control of our thoughts. You know, a thought comes to your head and you can either meditate on it or you can replace it with another thought. And I think, I know we're big sports fans, so I'm going to give a sports analogy here, but winning a game is more mental than anything else. If you've played sports, you'll know this, that once you get in your head, it's almost impossible to win because you start to do things, you start to focus on the wrong, play, you start to try and overcompensate for other areas because someone's in your head, or you're not really focused on just doing your job. You're focused on trying to gain it all back in one play or do something out of this world. But winning and being successful starts with the mindset that you know you can. If you don't think you're going to win that game, you're never going to win that game. And let's just say we're playing basketball with my little brother here. If I don't, now just for context, my little brother is 6'6". I still very much believe I can beat him. Whether that's true or not, we'll find out. But actually, no, I believe that I can. And that's the first thing. If I, in my head, immediately think I'm going to lose, you know what's going to happen? I'm going to lose. I'm going to go in there thinking everything I do, like I have to be perfect. I have to do so much. And I start to play more tight. I stop being loose. I stop having fun. And everything I'm doing is because I'm like, I can't beat him even if I try my hardest. And that can almost help you lose heart. You can almost get into a situation where you're like, you know what? Because I don't believe I can do it, I'm just going to give up. And I think many of us get in that position where it's like, I want to help change the world. I want to do these things like that, but I don't actually believe that I can. So what's the point of having good character? What's the point of doing the right thing? Because if I do the right thing, it's not going to matter. And that's a lie. I believe that when you do the right thing, it does matter. And starting to believe that is the first step to building good character, to believing that your character matters.
Yeah. Like you said, first step, we need to identify what we think about ourselves, what we think where we're at right now. And like Joshua said, if he didn't believe that he could beat his brother right then, why go forward and play? Mm-hmm. There's no point, because you already believe that you can't succeed. You can't win. And if you, like you said, if you have that thought, it's done. Like, you're not going to win.
Yeah.
So we need to identify
how do we think about ourselves? How do we think about, do we actually think we can achieve the goals? Because that's going to determine how we react when certain situations, when certain obstacles pop in our way.
And then next, I would say we have to develop a strategy of, how are we going to win? How are we going to do this? How can we do a step-by-step scenario or play-by-play of how are we going to succeed? How are we going to do the thing that we want to do?
Yeah, putting goals in place and changing how you think. Like, once you believe that you can do something, now it's training your mind to say, I'm going to actually get up and put this plan into action. I'm going to say yes. I'm going to get up every morning. I'm going to start writing. If you believe that you want to be, a blogger, or if you're going to start a podcast, that you're going to start putting outlines together. If you're playing a sport, that you're going to get up a little bit earlier to work out a little bit harder. Like, if you actually believe you can do something, and then you say, you know what, now I need to put a strategy, and this is the things you need to think about. I need to actually put something into action. Talk is cheap.
Yeah,
and you can talk all day about what you want to do, but your character is like, am I actually going to do what I say? Am I going to be a person of my word? Am I going to get up when I say I'm going to get up to go to the gym? Or I'm going to be like, you know what? I'm going to sleep in today. And actually, you know what? I said I was going to write today, but I'll do it tomorrow. I'm going to procrastinate. Actually, I'd rather watch this 8-hour Netflix special on some random show about somebody that bakes goods in a different country than actually do what I say I'm going to do. Not that I've ever done that. But those are moments that we have the opportunity to either actually start building character and actually start doing what we're going to say we're going to do, or we can regress into the same state that we've been living in.
Yeah. Then you can identify what is important to you.
Yeah.
What is your goal? What is going to help you take the step there? And then to help you with that is educate yourself about what you are wanting to learn. Be in an environment that's going to help you succeed. There's positive YouTube videos of how to do things, books, podcasts.
There's so many different places to learn.
There's so many avenues to learn with nowadays, with all the internet and everything that we have in our hands. It's just, there's no more excuses of, no, we can't do this.
Yeah.
No.
So take time and like I said, figure out what your goal is. Is your goal to be in a certain place? Okay, that's your goal. What character do you need to be to get there? Or what character do you need to have to get there? What goals or what strategies do you need to implement to get there? And then be consistent. Be a person of your word. And I think one really important thing about developing character that we might not have touched on yet, that I really think you have to have a basis for your belief system of why you're doing things.
What is your purpose?
Yeah. Like, if you just say, I'm going to have good character, what does that mean if you don't know what you believe? If you don't know what's important to you, if you don't know what you value, you have to first identify, this is what is important. This is what I value. And my character needs to be consistent with that. Then you have a standard to hold yourself against. If you don't have any standard to hold yourself against, every day your character could change based on what you don't know. And I think it's so important. That's like, again, for me, we're people of faith. So we believe that we base it, we want to have the fruit of the Spirit. We want to show love. We want to have joy. We want to be people that have peace. We want to be patient,
show kindness,
good to other people, have self-control, like, which is honestly a huge thing. We want those things in our life. And so that's our baseline. And so if our character or if our daily actions are not lining up with that, that gives us like a red flag to say, wait, I need to adjust something. I need to do something. And I have the option. Once I've identified the problem, I have the option to either address it or I can just kind of let it go on. Mm-hmm. And if I want good character, I have to address it.
Yeah. And then we also need to understand that there's going to be obstacles in our life that And we have to understand our own weaknesses. Like we said, if we want to develop character, if we want to do these things, we have to acknowledge that there is going to be some things that are going to try to stop us. And how do we overcome that? By being consistent of what we are saying we're going to do. Like Joshua said, talk is cheap. But if we continue to believe what we're going to do and we take action on what we say we're going to do, if we're consistent and we do this daily or we do this every week, the stuff that we think is going to stop us can't stop us.
Yeah.
If we're consistent. If, like what Joshua said, if it's with your fitness, if you allow yourself to say, okay, no, I'm just going to keep sleeping in, I'm going to keep putting that snooze button, it's good. That's going to happen sometimes, but we can overcome it and be like, okay, you know what? I'm done with that. I said I'm going to do this. Let me take action and actually do it. Or maybe I'm not a morning person. Let's set a different time and let's do it in the afternoon, or let's take a shorter lunch break and do this during lunch.
Yeah. And again, like once you develop these strategies, it's so important that you're accountable to yourself first. Like you have to develop a great system of self accountability.
Yeah.
It's great to also create a accountability network. Like for fitness, I started an Apple Watch competition with one of my buddies to help me be accountable that I'm going to hit my certain goals every day, that I'm going to every day be consistent in working out. And that's a great way, but you need to be self-accountable. Yeah. You need to be able to look yourself in the mirror and say, have I done what I said I was going to do? And that's the first thing that we have to learn is I'm going to do the things I say, and I'm not going to say things if I don't know I'm going to do them. That's another big part of character. A lot of times people want to make false promises and they want to say what people want to hear, but they don't actually want to come through. So if you don't plan to come through, then don't say that you will. And learning that early in life is something that's going to help you so much. Cause I can't even tell you, I don't even know how many times in my life I've made a promise to do something and I just was like, nah, I don't want to do that. Why would I say that? And then when I don't come through, because I definitely have done that where I haven't come through, what is that person thinking when they're like, well, why'd you say you were going to do that? And then you didn't. And
that person's all talk.
Yeah, literally. They're going to say you're all talk. They're going to say that you're not actually going to be a person of your word.
Yeah.
I believe one of the biggest things in character is that you are a person of your word. Tell people what your beliefs are. Be accountable to yourself first, and then create an accountability network. And that's so big in developing character.
Yeah, for sure. And I feel like we can go on to the next point of how do we maintain character? And like we always say, we hit this word every single time. Consistency. Consistency is key to a lot of things in life. And especially right here when we're, like I said, you don't develop character overnight. This is something that's daily. This is something that you're going to do your whole entire life. So if you're consistent, what you are believing for or what you are putting in your mind, you're setting your goals, if you're consistent with that, the character is going to develop. It's going to happen.
And maybe you just need to practice being consistent with one thing at a time. Like stop being committed to everything. Stop trying to do a lot of times people try to do a 180. Maybe you just need to do a 30-degree turn. Maybe you just need to slowly over time develop, okay, I'm going to be consistent I'm not going to commit to things I don't plan to do.
Here's a big thing for me. I would get so frustrated of the dumbest things ever. Like when we're having our communication, me and Joshua are talking, it's like, Jasmine, why are you so upset with that? And I'm glad that Josh pointed that out to me. So I made it key in my mind of like, okay, when we're having conversations or I'm just upset about something, I'm going to make it a point that I'm not going to get upset, that I'm going to allow it to happen and not fester on it and not raise my voice and not be upset. And I feel like I'm to the point right now where I'm like, I can successfully say like, it's not going to happen. My little inner Latina is not going to come out. No, but seriously, like it was just, I would tell Joshua, I'm like, Joshua, I don't know why I had this attitude for no reason. And it just comes out of nowhere. Like there's no reason for me to be upset like this. And that's a character that I had developed, like relax. Calm down. Like it's not a big deal. And
I mean, self-control is probably the way you maintain character, which is our third point. The way you maintain character is by having self-control, being consistent in that self-control, and then having the accountability of those around you to call you out when you aren't being consistent in that self-control.
And that's really good. Like I had no, like, I couldn't use any more excuses. Like he's called me out before. So when I would do it over again, there was no excuse for me to do it. Cause I said I was going to change. I said I was going to be better at it. And once I figured out, like, I can't make any more excuses, it helped me. It made me want to be better. It made me want to change. And like something like that with self-control, you can use that everywhere in life. You're in traffic in the morning, or say you're at school, a student talks back to you, or you're in school and your teacher is just giving all of their emotions on you, pouring out all their bad situations out on you, taking out on you. Practice self-control.
Yeah.
That's just, yeah.
I mean, and another thing is like, you know, one issue that I had, I never wanted to be wrong. And like,
I think we all have that.
Yeah.
issue.
I mean, who likes being wrong, right? But like, I would get mad at, or I'd get upset with Jasmine for super menial things, like things that didn't matter because I wasn't right. And so and that's a character flaw. Like, I'm 100% admitting that. And so what was my plan of action? To be like, hey, when you are getting upset, why are you upset? Do you actually have a base or reason, or any type of reason that you should be upset? And if not, then stop acting upset. Stop exalting your pride to a level that you can never be wrong, and just say, you know what, I was wrong. I can remember a specific situation where Jasmine called me out, or I felt like she called me out. She didn't really call me out. She just said, hey, like, let's think about this. And because in that moment I wanted to say, no, I'm right, and doing this, I got super, super annoyed and super mad about something. And then like, as I'm thinking about it, I was like, wait a second, like, I'm in the wrong here. And this is a chance to practice humility. And Jasmine and I have had this conversation about how I need to practice humility. So she's the one that called me out and said, hey, you're not practicing humility right now. And I have the option to either say, you know what, I can make an excuse and say, you know what, no, but this is different. No, or I can recognize that, you know what, I am doing exactly what I said I didn't want to do. And so thank you for keeping me accountable. And now I'm going to change my behavior to be consistent with the beliefs that I've said I want to be aligned with. And
you know, that is very important, to be able to be called out when your character, your actions don't align with what you say you wanted to do. Right. And I feel like what you just said, like, once you accept being called out and like you humble yourself, you're like, okay, wow, like, this is something that I said that I wanted to do. The action that I just did not line up with that.
Yeah.
Thank you for helping me out. You are actually helping me out. You're not trying to tear me down. I think when we recognize that, like, oh, they're not tearing me down, they're helping me out, that's when we can move forward. And also, it is important that we need to understand that we're not perfect.
We're not.
We're humans. We need to recognize that we are growing. We need to recognize that we're going to stumble, that we're not all in the same areas in life. You know?
We're not always going to be perfect. It's this weird idea that, like, once you've learned something that you're always going to come through. No, we're not. We're going to fail sometimes, and we need to have grace on ourselves. But that's another reason we need to be able to be accountable and understand that I'm not always going to do the right thing. I'm not always going to make the right decision. And I think sometimes we want to be perfect. We want to seek this perfection. But, you know, I was listening to Joyce Meyer today, actually, and she said, excellence is not perfection. We should strive to be excellent, but we can't strive for perfection because we're never going to reach perfection.
And she said, what is excellence? Excellence is using everything that you have to do.
Yeah. And doing the best with what you have.
Yeah. Doing the best with what you have.
You're not perfect, but excellent. And if we strive for excellent, that allows us to be humble. That allows us to understand that we need accountability. That allows us to, over time, build up a network, build up people around us to help us through hard times, because we're not always going to be able to do it ourselves. Yeah.
And like we said, we're human. We're not going to get it right all the time. So if you're struggling in certain areas, you need to find resources that would help you, or find people in your community that will help you.
Be honest.
Yeah. You're not meant to do this life alone. You're not meant to do all these things by yourself. You have community. You have your friends. Or you may say that you don't have friends. You don't have this community. We encourage you to find community.
Yeah.
Find friends. Find someone who's going to help you be accountable.
Yeah, reach out to your friends and family, and reach, like, again, if you don't have friends, find a place to be. Like, sometimes it's going to be hard. You're going to be put in situations where it's not just going to like an easy fix. It requires you to take a step of faith. It requires you to put yourself in comfortable situations. Even getting in, like, when we were going through premarital counseling, like, sometimes I would hear things and I'd be like, dang, like, I definitely do that. But just by putting myself in that situation and being willing to hear what people had to say, it allowed me to become aware of different actions and stuff like that I had in my heart. That I could actually, like, wow, that's something that I do. And I didn't realize the negative impact I could have because I'm only thinking it from my perspective. But when I had someone else's perspective, that helps me understand more. And it also makes it easier not to do those things because I have better understanding. I'm now more accountable. I've now been made aware.
Yeah. And also, being consistent is super easy when times are good, when everything is flowing right. But being consistent when things are hard, when things get let down, when you get let down, this is truly where you build character. This is when your endurance is tested. This is when you are you're able to, like we said, really develop the character. If something is happening in the situation and it's so easy for you just to forget what you've been developing and go back to what's easy. Yeah.
There's a verse I want to say it's in Romans, but it talks about how trials are what produce perseverance. And then perseverance is what produces character. Yeah. When a difficult situation comes up, that's the trial. Now you have the option to either fail the trial or persevere through it, to grow, to learn what the trial is trying to teach you. And when you decide to persevere and grow, that's when you start to develop character. Yeah. If you're not in situations that make you uncomfortable, that stretch your understanding, I highly doubt that you're developing great character because you're not going through anything. Your character is based on, oh, everything's easy, I'm not going to like push myself. But when you say, you know what, I'm going to start to humble myself. You know how hard it is? You know, the hardest trial is when you ask God for, hey, God, teach me humility. And he gives you opportunities to be humble. And it sucks. You're like, oh, wow. But no, I want my pride. Or when you ask God for, I want a situation to be patient. A lot of times people pray for patience. And God's not just going to give you patience. He's going to give you a situation where you have the opportunity to be patient. It's funny because we were trying to buy a house, right? And like, we're both like, hey, we want to be more patient. We want to be more patient people. We want to be more patient. And then what happens? Well, the housing market in 2021 was crazy. It was very hard to get a house. And we weren't patient. We were like, no, we're going to go do everything. We're going to just get ourselves in all these bad situations or things that we could have avoided if we had been patient, if we had just waited. And like, it was funny because we were talking a few weeks after and we're like, we asked for patience. And when the opportunity for patience came, we weren't patient. And that's what we're talking about. Like, there are going to be trials and you can either succeed that trial and that's where you develop perseverance, or you cannot. And if you develop perseverance over time, that's what creates your character.
Yeah. And I kind of want to piggyback off a story. Right now I'm helping coach a softball team in high school, and I'm very passionate about softball, but not only passionate about softball, I'm passionate about mentoring young girls and helping them with finding their purpose, finding their identity, finding life through Christ. And, but I have a very strong personality when it comes to sports because I'm very competitive. Right. And, so most of the girls, they don't have experience in softball. And another key factor is my sister is on the softball team. And coaches, if you have a daughter or a sibling or someone, you just have a greater expectation from them because you've known them your whole life, right? So a big thing for me was my patience. I asked God during this time of coaching, like, okay, God, help me with patience. Help me have patience for these girls, especially for the girls that don't know what they're doing, because I'm going to have to take time and I'm going to have to develop them and I'm going to have to teach them all these different things that some of these people already know. And I just want to push forward to one practice. There was this one practice where everything was going great. Everything was fine and dandy. It was perfect. And one girl catches an attitude and woo. I just got so like, let me take it back. In high school, if we did anything wrong in my team, we ran and ran and ran, and I just hated it. It made me hate softball with a passion. I just felt like it was just punishment, which it was. It was not fun at all. I resented softball. But so someone going back to my story, this girl had an attitude, and I wanted to respond back with attitude. I wanted to give her same attitude that she was giving me. And then now I'm the coach, so I can make her run. I can make her run for what she was doing. But in that moment, God taught me patience. And he shared with me like, hey, what is the one thing that made you resent softball? And it was funny because this is like literally within a few seconds. And I thought to myself, like, I hated running for it felt like no reason. It was just for punishment. And I didn't want to do the same thing that was happened to me to my girls. So instead of lashing out in front of the whole team, I pulled her aside, was patient with her, and loved on her. And it was funny because ever since then, I've never had that scenario happen again. And that was a cool moment for me because I was like, you know what? I could have easily just lashed out on her the way she lashed out on me. Or I could have easily just made her run for the things that she's done. But in that moment, I knew that wasn't the right thing to do. I knew that I just needed to pull her aside and have a teaching moment with her. And I'm glad that happened because we're all good.
Yeah. And
we're getting dubs.
I think that's the thing to stress is when you develop character, you get put in situations like Jasmine just talked about, and you now can respond appropriately.
Yeah.
It'll now help you in life to overcome obstacles with more wisdom. It'll allow you to have more patience. It'll allow you to address problems with more clarity when you've developed character over time. We're out of time for today, but what I want to kind of just to do to summarize, character is important because it is the track record, it is the barometer by people will measure you as an individual. And it starts with what you believe. It starts with how you think about yourself. What is your belief system? But it's developed and it's maintained through our actions. Are our actions consistent with what we say we believe? Are your actions consistent with who you want to be? And if they're not, you need to start identifying where your character doesn't line up and get that in correction.
And consistency is key on how we maintain our character.
Yeah.
That's something that's very important that we want to end with.
Yeah. So thank you for listening to Real Talk with J&J. We'll see you guys next time.